And what it also does is increase the surface area that stuff can get absorbed out of that tube and into your bloodstream, in our case, and then from your bloodstream, it'll get to all of your cells, right? What doesn't get broken down is eventually going to be eliminated. We'll get back to that later, right? And most of that stuff that can't get broken down is polysaccharide stuff that can't be broken down. And a lot of that is cellulose. It depends on what you eat, but most of that would be plant cell wall cellulose. Okay, so we'll get back to that in a little bit. All right, so now this is the small intestine, and here's the inside. This is really neat how structure is related to function stuff. First of all, the entire wall of the small intestine, which looks kind of smooth here, the entire wall is folded up. And then if you take one of those folds and enlarge it, you have all these little folds that are called villi. And this greatly increases the surface of the small intestine so that if you stretched all this out, it would be equivalent to about at least half a tennis court worth of surface that your lunch can get out of this tube. Really pretty incredible. So right in each of these little folds called villi, which are kind of finger-like, see they're kind of finger-like, is a set of blood vessels, a set of capillaries, and one of those lymph vessels that we talked about a little bit with your immune system. And so here's the idea. Here's your lunch. All these pieces of your lunch are out here getting broken into monomers. The monomers are going to cross this one cell thick layer. They're going to cross then into your bloodstream, and then they're on their way to all the rest of the parts of you. And what we're going to see in just a second is the first part of you that gets like first dibs on what is in your lunch is your liver. Hepatic is the liver word. And all these little blood vessels that are draining your lunch into your bloodstream and out, they all come together into one big vessel that empties it into your liver. And your liver is right next door to where all this is. It's not a very long trip, but that's called your hepatic portal vessel. Your liver then kind of decides what to do. If it's got too much of this, too little of that, it releases some of this, it lets some of that go, it changes some things. Your liver does a lot of chemistry. Okay, so now we're in the large intestine. This undigested stuff has got to your large intestine. Colon is another word for large intestine. Um, it's got a little part that sticks out called your appendix, right? We talked about that as a vestigial structure because not really much happens in there, but it's a common place that might get infected if bacteria cells sit in there that are bad bacteria cells. And then your entire large intestine, colon, is a common site of cancer, unfortunately, one of the most common. So here's what we find in your large intestine. We got all this undigested stuff, but you got a bunch of other creatures in there. Most of them are very helpful, and they can make enzymes that'll break things down like cellulose. Some of them also produce vitamins, and you rely on them for those vitamins. Some of them are those kind that can generate gases like methane gases and sulfur gases. We talked about that a little bit in ecology, right? And this is where grazing animals might do actually produce a significant enough amount of methane, a greenhouse gas, for it to add to the greenhouse kind of effect, right? But here's a big kind of ideas. I skipped over these two bullets here. I'm coming back, right? That personal set, what does that mean? Everybody's bacteria is a little different, not incredibly different, but like how many of this kind of bacteria you have compared to that kind of bacteria. And there's fungus in there too, and there's viruses and other things in there too. It's unique to you, and it contributes greatly to your health. All different kinds, psychological health as well as physical health. This is a huge new area of research because we have a lot to learn. And hopefully by learning that, we can fix lots of problems by fixing these bacteria, by like giving you bacteria. This kind of therapy is done already, has been done for a little while, and it's going to only increase in the future, right? So What the good bacteria in there do is feed on fiber. The bad ones don't so much. That's a good thing as long as you've got a lot of fiber in your diet, or at least a good amount, right? Because it lets the good ones have enough food to keep outnumbering the bad ones. And that in general is a very simple but a very significant part of your health. Okay, here now, this is pretty complex, and we're just going to get in a tiny bit, okay? We're going to talk about sugar again, okay? So you eat a meal, it's got carbohydrate in it, depending on what you eat, more, less, whatever, and this blood sugar starts to get into your blood. What's blood sugar? It's glucose, okay? Well, if you have a lot of it, the extra stuff gets to your fat cells, and your fat cells make fat out of it. And your fat cells then also secrete this hormone chemical message that says, hey, we got enough, don't eat so much. Leptin is a naturally evolved chemical that causes us to not eat when we shouldn't eat, when we got enough stuff, right? Unfortunately, here's the cycle that has evolved since our diets have become so sugar rich in just the last 50 years, basically. When the sugar in your blood gets high because you just ate a meal, right? Then insulin comes from your pancreas and it lets sugar get out of your blood and into your cells. So it decreases your blood sugar. That's what insulin does, right? But insulin also can block leptin. Leptin's the molecule that says, hey, we have enough food, don't eat anymore. Insulin blocks that. So at just the right time, just the time when you don't need to have more sugar, your brain's still telling you, eat, eat, eat. And this sugar, it's now been determined for sure, is addictive. It stimulates the reward center in your brain. That's that part of your brain, just like every single kind of addictive kind of stuff does, like nicotine and other addictive kinds of chemicals. And so your brain not only is having the you have enough food, don't eat any more message blocked, leptin, but it's also getting a message from your brain that says this feels good, do it more, go get more sugar. This is the basic chemical cycle that has led to our unfortunate worldwide situation with obesity and too many of all the conditions that come from obesity. So, what's wrong with blood sugar? Well, besides having too much body weight, which makes blood harder to flow around, that's one of the little things. Sugar is very sticky. And when sugar sticks to some other molecules, like globs of fatty stuff that are carrying things, fats like cholesterol around very naturally and very healthily, but when sugar sticks to them, this would be glucose. I shouldn't have made it the star because it's the dark star. Then these things become very sticky. What do they do in your blood vessels when they become very sticky? They clog up your blood vessels, and this is a great part of what heart disease is about. This clogging up of blood vessels that we call atherosclerosis. Okay? What are starches? Starches are a whole bunch of glucose that's stuck together, right? And they get broken down in your small intestine into glucoses. So starches are pretty much just like eating straight up sugar, right? If they get broken down pretty fast. Well, there's a way they can not get broken down quite so fast and make it to your small intestine where they become some of those polysaccharides that your good bacteria feed on. So that's a plus. Less blood sugar because they don't get broken down in your small intestine and absorbed. If they get through your small intestine to your large intestine, that's probably what I meant to draw there, that's where they can do you some good. How can you make the starches that are in like bread not get broken down so fast? Freeze it. Cool them down, it's been shown, makes them much less easily digestible and therefore much more healthy. And so it's as simple as when you buy bread, put it in the freezer and freeze it for a while before you use it. In the same kind of way. Hot potatoes, like mashed potatoes, very easy to digest, almost just like eating sugar. But cold potatoes, like you would have in potato salad, for instance, same thing. One more, spaghetti. I've told you this before, right? I'm going to reminding you now. Spaghetti, starch, hot spaghetti, right? Right off the oven, right out of the stove, whatever. Hot spaghetti, almost just like eating sugar. Blood sugar goes up, sticks to things, insulin released, blocks leptin, da 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 da. Right. So what do you do with spaghetti? Fix it a day early. Put it in the fridge, let it cool off, and then, amazingly, when you reheat it, it becomes even harder to digest, which again is better in this case. So that's a simple way that you can fix a little bit of this problem that starches have. And this chemistry is really the reason why all these diet plans have started in the last 10 years to take carbohydrates out of your diet. This is the reason that that's a good thing. Um, so that's a little bit of chemistry that I think everybody should know, and hopefully, you'll take that into consideration in your particular life and lifestyle. So, plays on words. Uh, it's been fun. I enjoyed. I'm going to give you more messages here, like next week and the week after a little bit. But that's the last little instructional video. I'm going to give you some kind of little assignment. I haven't even figured it out yet for this. I don't know if it'll be a quiz or probably a little story I'm going to let you write me. But checking out for now. Take care of mom.